Hey everyone, Brian here with SampleLibraryReview.com, and today we're going to check out Action Woodwinds from Sonuscore and Native Instruments. Now this is the latest addition to the Action series. They have Action Strings 2, and then Action Strikes. Now you may be familiar with these instruments if you've purchased one of their bundles such as Complete or Complete Ultimate. That is how I originally got those Action Strikes and Action Strings back in the day. So this is the newer version of that, and this is the first time they're doing Woodwinds. It's got an all-new engine. This does require the Contact Player 7, so you need Contact 7, but just the player version, so it's just a free download. It doesn't work in Contact 6 at all, and it does come in at about 22 gigabytes of hard drive space. It is a phrase-based library like the previous Action series, and you'll hear that in the demonstration that we're going to do today. It does actually also have single notes, so single short notes can be added, and you can customize the sequences in a way that wasn't available at least with Action Strings 1. They introduced it in Action Strings 2, so we'll take a look at that as well. To get an idea of what you get with the library, I put together just a very quick mock-up here. Really nothing special, but I also at the end I wanted to hear how Action Woodwinds blends with other woodwind libraries and also horns and strings and stuff like that. But at the end here, I used a bassoon and an oboe from another library, and I wanted to hear how well that oboe or that bassoon would blend with the woodwind ensembles, or specifically the bassoon or oboe in Action Woodwinds. So you see we have these phrases, and so each one of these is an instance of Action Woodwinds, and then down here's the strings and everything. Let's check it out. So that was just a quick listen to the instruments, you know, kind of in a full context with the brass and strings and all that stuff, even blending other woodwind libraries with it, because I know that's kind of a common thing, is how does this blend with other libraries? So let's take a look at the instrument itself. I actually have a new fresh instance down here. Now, it's a pretty complicated instrument or library. So let's go to something basic here. And so as you can see, it's mapped across the keys here. So I can solo just the high or low ensemble. It of course pitches to whatever key you press. And let's solo just the high there. Now programmed down here are going to be variations of this basic breaks. Turn off the solo. So right now I'm just going to turn the mic off and play through a lot of these basic things, and then later on we'll see how we can kind of customize them. Also keep in mind for the blendability as well with other libraries. We have kind of a default mix, a combination of these microphones. We have close, spot, tree, and far. So we'll take a look at some, or take a listen to some of those as well. But for now, let's check out some of the presets. Okay, so that should give you, a very good idea of some of the presets. I could only play those on for so long, and I'm sure they have a lot of those in the, official demos and walkthroughs and everything. But I'll tell you, my personal favorite things are like those arpeggios and runs and playable diatonic rips and falls. Those sound so good, and the fact that they're playable in so many keys and scales is really, really cool. So I'm specifically talking about, let's say we go to melodic, these diatonic playables, playable falls, and then on the arpeggios, let's say that run at the end. I just love stuff like that. So basically what I'm saying is I love when you can go in and kind of customize it, and I'll show you that now. But the whole basic sequences aren't really blowing me away. And of course it's with a phrase-based library. If you just use these presets, you're going to sound like everyone else. So what I want to do now is look how we can do more of these runs and kind of customize the sequence, which we can do by going to our editor here. So I can click this and double click it, and as you can see, we have rests and whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, all that kind of stuff here. So if we want to change, here we go, staccato 16th note, 8th note, quarter note, marcato, half note, quarter, like all this kind of stuff here, you can just go in and double click and it adds that to the sequence. So let's say we want to do So as you can hear, I'm changing this around. We can change this to major, which would sound probably weird. Especially with a halftone trill. So let's try this. So we took, a pretty intense sounding preset and made it more smooth and flowing. So let's kind of just isolate the high ensemble there. Now it's like, you know, a cheery whole tone major scale. It totally changed using that basic preset I started with. So again, you can do this with all of the presets, or just start with nothing and do this, which is what I would probably encourage most people to do. And I can tell you, I certainly will be using this in my template. Just when I was listening to those diatonic, playable diatonic sounds, let's go back there. I think they were in chromatic or melodic. Okay. These are so good. So, of course, you can do this with, you know, a more performance-based instrument, or like a modeled instrument, or library, I mean, performance-based library. But the fact that you've got all these woodwind players playing this in unison, this is, you know, this is a real performance. It time stretches to your tempo. It goes in any key, any scale. I mean, this kind of stuff, even without the sequencer, right? I would buy this just for this kind of stuff without the sequencer. I'm not that big on using sequencers inside of a contact library. In fact, I never do it. I use the sequencer in my DAW and program things in that way, which you can actually certainly do with this, because they have staccatissimo, staccatos, marcatos, and sustains and trills and all that. So the fact they include that, that's what's going to push it to definitely be something I would recommend. If it only had the sequences and phrases and you're stuck to that, I wouldn't recommend it. But the fact that they have short notes and, you know, a good dynamic range for those as well. Let's play the sustains real quick. So just playing, you know, some of the short notes and all that, you can hear, I mean, they're good samples. And I love the runs, I love the crazy arpeggios, all of that kind of stuff, because it's recorded on the performance level. Anyone can kind of program short notes into their DAW, but when it comes to these, again, that kind of stuff, ornaments, little ear candy for your compositions. They just don't do this in a lot of libraries. And of course you can play it in, but that's a real performance, and it sounds much better than if I were to try to program this in with something. Final thing, let's check out some of the microphone mixes. So here's close. Wait, let's turn the reverb off. Very dry. Spot. Tree. And far. So I will say all of these sound quite small. I mean, this sounds like this was recorded in a studio. So when we add the reverb with the far mics, even those far mics, everything's still fairly close sounding. And so there's a lot of detail there is what I'm saying. It doesn't sound muddy at all. It doesn't sound crazy distant, but it sounds good, very detailed. Because some of those far mics, you can get a lot of mud. So I'm actually shocked that the far mics sound that good. But then the default mix also sounds just great if we use this mix here. But again, if you want to blend it within the library, it would be easier to use, let's say, far or closer tree, depending on the level of ambience in your library that you're trying to mix with. We also have EQ and different reverbs here. Just that Concert Hall A sounds great. Remember the editor, anything you're hearing here in these presets, just a way to show off the engine, but you can go in and edit everything if that's what you would like to do. And then of course there are a ton of different presets. If I were to try to play through them all, it would just get boring. So that was a quick look at Action Woodwinds. I mean, there's a ton of content. It took me honestly a long time to really unpack everything this library could do. I would certainly recommend this for those runs and those diatonic, those playable things, little performance ornaments that you just can't get elsewhere because they're recorded at the player level here. They sync to your tempo and they sound really, really good. So that was a quick look at Action Woodwinds from Sonuscore and Native Instruments. A lot to unpack. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below, and thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next time.